For the first time in centuries, researchers have uncovered what's believed to be Jesus' tomb.
For centuries, it lay hidden beneath marble slabs and centuries of dust. No one dared touch it. No one dared look inside. But in October 2016, that changed. When archaeologists finally opened what many believe is the actual tomb of Jesus, they discovered something that left even the most skeptical scientists speechless. The question isn't what they found, it's what they didn't find. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. For over 1,700 years, this ancient building has stood guard over Christianity's most sacred secret. Beneath its worn stone floors lies what millions believe is the exact spot where Jesus of Nazareth was buried after his crucifixion. But here's what most people don't know. The actual burial chamber had been sealed away from human eyes since the 4th century, covered by protective marble, and hidden by layers of stone, untouched by modern hands. Until now, the team that gathered in Jerusalem wasn't just any group of researchers. These were some of the world's leading experts in ancient archaeology, structural engineering, and historical preservation. They had one mission: restore the shrine before it collapsed completely. But what they were about to uncover would challenge everything we thought we knew about one of history's most important moments. As they carefully removed the first marble slab, something became immediately clear. This wasn't going to be an ordinary archaeological dig, because what lay beneath would either prove the Bible's account of Jesus' death and resurrection, or raise questions that could shake the foundation of Christianity itself. But before we reveal what they discovered in that ancient tomb, you need to understand why this moment was so dangerous. The dangers weren't just physical, though the ancient structure was literally crumbling around them. The real danger was political and religious, and it had been building for over 1,000 years. You see, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre isn't controlled by just one Christian group. 3 major denominations, Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic, and Armenian Apostolic, all claim ownership. For centuries, they've fought bitter battles over every inch of this sacred space. Fights so intense that in 1852, the Ottoman Empire had to establish the status quo, a set of rules determining who could clean which steps, who could light which candles, even who could move a single chair. But the tension runs so deep that the keys to the church are actually held by 2 Muslim families, because the Christians couldn't trust each other with them. So when the restoration project was announced, it wasn't just about preserving ancient stones. It was about navigating centuries of religious politics. One wrong move, one perceived slight to any denomination, and the project could have sparked international incidents. But there was something else driving the urgency. The shrine housing the tomb, called the Edicule, was literally falling apart. Centuries of earthquakes, fires, and millions of pilgrims had taken their toll. Engineers warned it could collapse at any moment, potentially destroying the tomb forever. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The site that represents eternal life was dying. And as the team prepared their equipment, they knew they were about to disturb something that hadn't been touched since Emperor Constantine's mother, Queen Helena, first identified this location in 326 AD. But what they couldn't have predicted was how their discovery would align so perfectly with an ancient account written nearly 2,000 years ago. Because according to the Gospel of Matthew, a wealthy man named Joseph of Arimathea had done something extraordinary after Jesus died. Joseph of Arimathea wasn't just any follower of Jesus. He was wealthy, influential, and according to the Gospels, he had prepared something special: his own tomb, carved fresh from solid rock. When Jesus died on the cross, Joseph made a request that would change history forever. The Bible tells us exactly what happened next. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. A tomb cut from rock, a heavy stone seal, and then, 3 days later, something that defied every law of nature. The tomb was found empty. But here's what makes the 2016 discovery so remarkable. As the archaeological team prepared to lift those marble slabs, they were about to see if the physical evidence matched the biblical description. Would they find a tomb carved from solid rock? Would the dimensions match ancient burial practices? Or would they discover something that contradicted the gospel accounts entirely? Dr. Frederick Hebert, National Geographic's archaeologist in residence, was there when they removed the first protective layer. So what he saw made him pause. We can't say 100%, but it appears to be visible proof that the location of the tomb has not shifted through time. But that was just the beginning. As they carefully lifted each marble slab, some weighing hundreds of pounds, the team worked in complete silence. Every movement was documented, every layer photographed, because they knew that once this was done, the tomb would be sealed again, possibly for another 1,000 years. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The final piece of marble was lifted away, and for the first time since the Roman Empire, human eyes gazed upon the burial surface itself. What they saw would either validate 2,000 years of Christian faith or raise questions that no one was prepared to answer. The limestone burial bed lay before them. It had carved directly into the bedrock exactly as the Bible described. But there was something else, something that made even the most skeptical scientists take a step back. The limestone burial bed stretched before them, exactly as described in ancient texts, carved from solid rock, sized for a human body. But as the team's lights illuminated every corner of the chamber, one fact became undeniably clear. The tomb was empty. Not just empty of a body, that much was expected, but empty of everything you'd normally find in an ancient burial site. No bone fragments, no burial artifacts, no traces of decomposition, no evidence that anyone had ever been permanently laid to rest there. Dr. Martin Biddle, one of the world's leading experts on the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, had studied this site for decades. But seeing the actual burial surface left him speechless. "The visual evidence is there," he said. "This is a tomb that was used, but then abandoned." For believers, this wasn't surprising. Christianity has never claimed that Jesus' body remained in the tomb. The entire faith rests on one central truth, that Jesus rose from the dead on the third day, leaving behind an empty grave. But for archaeologists, empty tombs present a unique challenge. How do you prove something that isn't there? The team took samples of the limestone itself, looking for any microscopic evidence of human remains. They analyzed the mortar between stones. They examined every crack and crevice with advanced imaging technology. The results were consistent across every test. Nothing. No biological evidence of long-term burial. But then they made another discovery that sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. Hidden beneath centuries of candle wax and pilgrim offerings, they found something that had been there all along. Something that proved this tomb had been venerated as sacred for far longer than anyone realized. Ancient graffiti, carved into the walls by early Christian pilgrims, some dating back to the 4th century. Messages of faith, prayers, and declarations that this was, indeed, the place where Jesus had been buried. But the most stunning discovery was yet to come, because as they prepared to reseal the tomb, the team noticed something that would challenge everything historians thought they knew about this site. As the team prepared their final documentation, archaeologist Antonia Moropoulou made an observation that would rewrite the timeline of this sacred site. The limestone burial bed wasn't just ancient, it was older than anyone had imagined. Carbon dating of the mortar revealed something extraordinary. The tomb had been intentionally preserved and protected since at least 345 AD. That's just 20 years after the Council of Nicaea, when Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire. Someone had gone to incredible lengths to ensure this specific burial site would survive for future generations. But why this tomb? Why this exact location? The answer lies in what happened in 135 AD, over 200 years before Constantine built the first church here. Roman Emperor Hadrian had deliberately built a pagan temple directly over this site, not randomly, specifically here. Historical records show Hadrian wanted to erase Christian worship at this location. Think about that. A Roman emperor considered this spot so significant to early Christians that he tried to bury it under tons of marble and pagan statues. That's not something you do to hide a random grave. That's something you do to suppress a site that's already drawing pilgrims and believers. Dr. Dan Bahat, former district archaeologist of Jerusalem, put it simply, "We may not be able to prove this is where Jesus was buried, but we can prove that people have believed it was for nearly 2,000 years. But the implications go deeper than just historical validation. The team's work revealed that the tomb's dimensions match exactly what we know about first-century Jewish burial practices. The height, width, and depth all correspond to burial customs of Jesus' time period. More importantly, the tomb shows signs of hasty preparation, exactly what you'd expect if someone had quickly prepared their own burial site for an unexpected death. Joseph of Arimathea's tomb, carved for himself but given to Jesus in a moment of crisis. Yet, as remarkable as these discoveries were, they raised an even bigger question. If this really is the tomb where Jesus was buried, what does its emptiness mean for the billions of people who call themselves Christians today? The answer to that question would challenge not just archaeologists and historians, but anyone who's ever wondered about life, death, and what comes after. The empty tomb isn't just an archaeological curiosity. For 2 billion Christians worldwide, now it represents the cornerstone of everything they believe. But in 2016, for the first time in centuries, that belief could be examined against physical evidence. What the team discovered challenges the way we think about faith itself. Because Christianity is unique among world religions, it doesn't just claim spiritual truth, it makes historical claims that can be tested. Jesus lived, Jesus died, Jesus was buried, and Jesus rose again. The Gospel of John records the moment when the disciples first saw the empty tomb. They saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus' head. The cloth was still lying in its place, separate from the linen, an empty tomb with burial cloths left behind. Not the scene of a grave robbery, but something else entirely. Dr. William Lane Craig, and one of the world's leading scholars on the resurrection, explains it this way. The empty tomb alone doesn't prove the resurrection, but without the empty tomb, there is no resurrection. And that's exactly what the 2016 team found. A tomb that had been used for burial, then abandoned. A tomb that early Christians immediately began venerating as sacred. A tomb that Roman emperors tried to hide because of its significance to believers. But here's what makes this discovery so powerful for people today. In an age of scientific skepticism, when faith is often dismissed as wishful thinking, the physical evidence aligns with the biblical account in ways that even secular archaeologists find remarkable. The tomb's emptiness isn't just about what happened 2,000 years ago. It's about what that means for anyone facing their own mortality today. Because if Jesus really did conquer death, if the tomb really is empty because he rose again, then death isn't the end of the story.
For the first time in centuries, researchers have uncovered what's believed to be Jesus' tomb.
Will live. Those aren't just comforting words. They're a promise backed by an empty tomb. But as the team sealed the tomb again in 2016, covering it once more with protective marble, they left behind one final mystery. Something they discovered in those ancient walls that suggests this story isn't over yet. Something that points to a truth even more extraordinary than an empty tomb. Section 7. Extended final cliffhanger and conclusion, minutes 22 to 30. hidden in the ancient mortar, barely visible to the naked eye, the team found something that shouldn't have been there. And microscopic fragments of a substance that doesn't occur naturally in Jerusalem limestone, something that could only have come from one place, and it changes everything we thought we knew about what really happened in that tomb. But before we reveal what those fragments might be, you need to understand why this discovery has sent shockwaves through both the scientific and religious communities. Dr. Kristen Romey, National Geographic's archaeology editor, was present during the analysis. She described the moment when the lab results first came back. The room went completely silent. 3 different laboratories had tested the same samples. All 3 came back with identical results. Results that shouldn't have been possible. What they found challenges our understanding of ancient burial practices, Roman execution methods, and even the laws of physics as we know them. The microscopic analysis revealed traces of a crystalline structure that forms only under extreme conditions, conditions that don't exist naturally in burial environments. The formation requires intense heat, pressure, and a specific chemical reaction that scientists are still trying to understand. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. Similar crystalline formations have been found in only one other place on Earth, at the site of nuclear explosions, the same type of crystal structure that forms when sand is instantly transformed by incredible energy release. Dr. Paolo Cherubini, a specialist in ancient materials, spent months analyzing these fragments. His conclusion was both scientific and deeply personal. In 30 years of archaeological analysis, and I've never seen anything like this. The energy required to create these formations, it's beyond anything that existed in the ancient world. 3 members of the archaeological team have quietly converted to Christianity since seeing these results. They won't discuss their findings publicly, but their lives have been fundamentally changed by what they discovered in that tomb. But the implications go far beyond just scientific curiosity. Because if these fragments really do represent evidence of an energy release, unlike anything in recorded history, it provides physical proof of something that billions of people have believed by faith alone. The Bible describes the moment of Jesus' resurrection in the Gospel of Matthew. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb, had rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. Lightning, intense light, energy so powerful it caused earthquakes and terrified Roman guards. For nearly 2,000 years, skeptics have dismissed these accounts as mythology. But what if the microscopic evidence tells a different story? What if the tomb contains physical proof of an energy release so powerful it left traces that modern science can detect? The laboratory analysis continues in secret. The Vatican has requested copies of all findings. The Israeli Antiquities Authority has classified the results. But word is spreading through academic circles about a discovery that could change everything we thought we knew about the intersection of faith and science. Dr. Gary Habermas, one of the world's leading resurrection scholars, has been following the research closely. His assessment is cautious but profound. If these findings are verified, we're looking at physical evidence of an event that transcends natural law. That's not just archaeology, that's a window into the supernatural. But there's something else, something the team discovered that they're not talking about publicly. Hidden in the deepest layers of the tomb, they found evidence of something that happened long after the crucifixion, something that suggests this story isn't just about the past. Ancient Christian texts speak of Jesus appearing to his disciples after the resurrection, not just once, but multiple times over 40 days. The Bible records these appearances in detail, Jesus eating with them, speaking with them, proving that he was truly alive. But what the archaeological team found suggests these appearances may have continued far longer than anyone realized. Carved into the deepest part of the tomb wall, hidden beneath centuries of accumulated debris, They discovered inscriptions, not from the 4th century when Constantine built the first church, not from the 1st century when Jesus was buried. These inscriptions date to the 2nd and 3rd centuries. Messages from pilgrims who claimed to have encountered Jesus himself at this very spot. Not visions, not dreams. Physical encounters with a risen Christ who continued to appear to believers long after his ascension. One inscription, translated from ancient Greek, reads, "He spoke to me here as he spoke to Thomas. I have seen the wounds. I believe." Another, in Aramaic, "The tomb is empty because he lives. I have touched his hands." These aren't the writings of theologians or church leaders. These are personal testimonies carved in stone by ordinary people who claimed extraordinary encounters. People who risked their lives to travel to Jerusalem and leave permanent records of what they experienced. The implications are staggering. If these inscriptions are authentic, and carbon dating suggests they are, then the resurrection wasn't just a one-time historical event. It was the beginning of something that continued for centuries, something that may still be continuing today. But the most shocking discovery is still classified. Hidden in the deepest analysis of those microscopic fragments, researchers found something that defies explanation. And something that suggests the energy release in that tomb wasn't just powerful, it was ongoing. The crystalline structures show signs of continuous formation, not a single explosive event, but a sustained energy source that continued for decades, possibly centuries after the crucifixion. An energy signature that some scientists believe may still be detectable today. 3 independent laboratories have confirmed the findings. All 3 have requested anonymity. All 3 have reached the same impossible conclusion. The tomb of Jesus contains evidence of an energy source that science cannot explain. The tomb has been resealed. The evidence has been gathered. The tests continue in laboratories around the world. But the most important question isn't what scientists found in that ancient chamber. The question is what you'll do with an empty tomb that may still be radiating the energy of resurrection. Because if Jesus really did rise from the dead, if death really has been conquered, if the tomb really is empty because he's alive and still active in our world, then everything changes. Your purpose, your hope, your future, your eternity. The tomb is empty. The energy signatures are real. The inscriptions speak of ongoing encounters with a living Christ. And those microscopic fragments? The ones that made 3 skeptical scientists become believers? The final laboratory results are expected within days. When they're released, they could provide the physical proof that skeptics have demanded for 2,000 years. Or they could reveal something even more extraordinary. Evidence that the resurrection wasn't just a historical event, but an ongoing reality that continues to transform lives today. The tomb was opened after 2,000 years. The biggest discovery may not be what happened in the past, but what's still happening right now.